Shabbat Shalom, glory and honor to Father Yahweh, the only true God, the Father of the Messiah, Yahweh Shah, the creator of heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is, the sustainer of the earth, the one who put it in motion and built everything upon it and gave it to man, the one who created man and then created his chosen people, Israel. Glory and honor to his name, Yahweh, and his son, Yahweh Shah. Greetings to the 12 tribes scattered into the four corners of the earth, according to this book, by slavery and oppression, who are now awakening to who they are, and to the 144,000 among them who are the forerunners of the return of Messiah, and of course, to the Gentiles, our brothers and sisters, who have come to the truth of the faith of Messiah, which is the perfect righteousness of the Father, and are now taking up the cause of the true Hebrews. Greetings and blessings upon you. Greetings to the chat, Sister Isha, Brother Superstar, Manny D, SD, Brother Stephen Lewis, my brother Gary Joseph, Azariah Bat Yisrael, April Buck, Brother Diamond Holdings, Brother Stephen Kelly, Akawan Banya and his family, Brother Ruel, Yakoba, my brother, Hebrewish Rhonda, my sister. Greetings to all of you. We have been studying Deuteronomy, and of course, we've been getting a great blessing studying Deuteronomy. Been very rich, as it always is, again, because Deuteronomy is not only, first of all, one of the big basic tenets of what we are calling the awakening, what the Bible actually says for us to do to awaken. One of the basic tenets of it is to understand that when you realize you are the bloodline Hebrew, that you also realize that this book is your history book. This book is not a hidden history book. So, for example, somebody you might meet on the street or meet in job, they can tell you their history. Otherwise, you wouldn't know it. But this book publishes your history. It publishes the history of your forefathers, your ancestors. It tells you where you come from. It tells you how you started. It tells you how you got to where you are now. This King James Bible is more than just a Bible or a book. It is your history. It is your history. And so when you're reading it with that understanding, it's a completely different read than when you're reading it any other way. So when you're reading with the understanding that this is your history, the history of your family, the history of where you came from, how you got to your present situation, and actually, for anybody, for the Gentiles that are coming to this truth, they can see their history in here as well, and they can also understand our history as well. The history of the cause they're taking up, the history of the nation that they're grafting into. They will understand that history. They will understand their own history because the children of Yafet history is in there as well. So you can see all of that. But prior to now, to this awakening, Black people in America totally did not understand that this was their history book for the most part. I mean, you have people awakening here and there, but I mean, not like it is now, where people are really starting to awaken. And one of the basic tenets of that awakening is to understand that this King James Bible is your history book. It is your family's history book. And so when we're reading Deuteronomy, we're reading about our family history, obviously. And not only that, we're reading about prophecy and our place in prophecy. We're reading about statutes and judgments that we were given, that we were the first nation to be given. We were the first nation to be given. In fact, of course, the Bible tells us, let's take a look in Psalms 147. Psalms 147, one of my favorite areas for this particular testimony. Psalms 147 verses 19 and 20. Psalm 147 verses 19 and 20. And it says, he, that is the Most High, showeth his word unto Jacob, his statutes and his judgments unto Israel. He hath not dealt so with any nation. As for his judgments, they have not known them. Praise ye Yahweh. So, hallelujah. So, he has not shown himself to any nation as he has shown to Jacob's children. And so when we're reading the statutes and judgments in Deuteronomy, and of course he's already told us that in the book of Deuteronomy, we've already read where it says, we are the chosen people above all nations, that he chose us, our fathers, as his peculiar people. And he's going to continue to say that. So you have multiple witnesses. And of course, we can keep going with the witnesses. We talked about Amos. We talked about Hosea. We talk about all the prophets testify that he's chosen Jacob's children as his chosen people. And we are those children. So as we're studying Deuteronomy, we're reading about our history. We're reading about the statutes and judgments that he gave to our ancestors, which by extension, come to us. And then we're also reading about our prophetic future, which he's going to bring about in just a couple of chapters ahead of where we are now. Today, very important stuff, very foundational stuff in a very small chapter is chapter 26. I want to start off today looking at the book of Amos, actually, Amos chapter 8, because one of the things that we have seen in Deuteronomy, and we've seen it clearly, is the emphasis on helping the poor, the emphasis on the economy being built in the nation of Israel so that the poorest people will be provided for. And the nation is judged by that. What Asatan has done is he, first of all, changed our history and our God into another image. And then he made religion a profit center. What do I mean by that? Religion became big money because people that are sincere in a religion will give their money to that religion. And so there have been people from the time of our fathers until now that will exploit people over religion, exploit them, not just financially, but exploit their mind. Many people have went crazy thinking they'd be lost from some church, okay, thinking their life is over because they're not a member of some church, some religion, that they have no other way of salvation. People have lost faith in that the existence of a creator based on corrupt religion. And so in our history, in our father's history, Amos chapter 8 gives us a very good indication, among many places, but a very good indication of what happened from the original commandment, which we're going to read about in Deuteronomy 26. Also, in the United States, I can't speak for all the other countries that are so-called developed countries of Europe, Germany, France, Spain, where there's Hebrews in all of those places, UK. I can't really speak to that, but I have a feeling it's very similar. In the poorer areas in the United States, the so-called African Americans are by far the poorest of the groups of people in the United States, by far. That being the case, we have the least wealth. Just to give you an example of what I mean by religion, though, back in the early 20th century, and I'm speaking from the Seventh-day Adventist Church as the church that I came out of, Caucasian Seventh-day Adventists did not want Black Seventh-day Adventists, period. But the prophet of the SDA church, Ellen White, had a son, and her son believed that Black people should receive that message. And so he took it upon himself to evangelize or to share his Christian SDA message with Black people. And because the Caucasians did not want them as part of their church, they called us the colored. And so Black people formed their own churches. Okay. They formed their own congregations. Now, over time, over the course of the 20th century, it came to pass that there rose up some very large Black congregations. And the Caucasian Seventh-day Adventists noticed that. Not that they didn't want us to fellowship with them still. They didn't want us in their churches. No Caucasian churches, Baptist, Pentecostal, whatever one. They did not want Black people. Caucasians did not want Black people in their churches. There were some religions, even like the Mormons, that didn't even believe. They don't teach it now, but they used to teach that Black people didn't have souls. Okay, that Black people didn't have souls. So it was like that. And then, like, when you had colleges, Black people had separate facilities, separate colored only restrooms. My uncle did his PhD at all Adventist colleges and white colleges, and he went through that. My uncle from Jamaica, he became a PhD in theology. Now, in New York, there arose a church. And I went to this church. In fact, I was baptized in it, Ephesus on 123rd Street and what used to be Lenox Avenue, but now it's Malcolm X Boulevard. Actually, that church appears in the movie Malcolm X, but that's a different story. Back in the 20s and 30s and 40s, this church began to prosper, even though the people that went there were basically people that cleaned houses, wiped floors, train porters. Nobody making a lot of money, but they would give. They would give a lot of a percentage of their income to the church. So the Caucasian people noticed that. While they didn't want us in their churches, they didn't mind having a piece of the money. Because percentage-wise, the poorer so-called Black people were giving more of their money than the richer Caucasian people, like the story of the widow's mite. So there were rich people putting money in the treasury of their abundance, but the widow gave all she had. That represents a lot of we call old saints in the Black Christian church. And like I said, my experience in the SDA church. So they wanted to change it and have separate conferences that all moved up to one major conference in the SDA church so that they would get money from all the churches because the Black people were giving a lot of money. I said that to say the reason that exists, and that's been the situation in my experience, no matter where I go. When you go to poor areas, they're more receptive to listening to you if you have some message to share. They're more giving of the little that they have than, and that's poor people of all races, really, but most of the poor of Black communities. But you see poor people, Caucasian like that, Spanish like that, but they give more than rich people do, period, in terms of percentage of what they have. And we learned that lesson the hard way because it wasn't always like that. Amos chapter 8, beginning at verse 1. Amos chapter 8, beginning at verse 1. The whole chapter is 14 verses. I'm going to start from verse 1 and go to verse 7. Amos chapter 8, from verse 1 to verse 7. Thus saith the Most High Yahweh. Thus hath the Most High Yahweh showed unto me, and behold, a basket of summer fruit. And he said, Amos, what seest thou? And I said, a basket of summer fruit. Then said Yahweh unto me, the end is come upon my people of Israel, and I will not again pass by them anymore. So pass by is like pass over. So remember, the destroying angel passed over the children of Israel. Well, he came through the Egyptians. Well, he said, I won't pass by anymore. I'm going to pass through. So he's about to punish them. Okay. Summer fruit he was being shown was at the end of a season, right? The end of the summer brought the abundance of the fruit at the end. So he said, I see a basket of summer fruit. He said, the end has come. This is the end of the season. This is the end for my people. Okay. Verse 3. And the songs of the temple shall be howlings in that day, saith the Most High Yahweh. There shall be many dead bodies in every place. They shall cast them forth in silence. Hear this, O ye that swallow up the needy, even to make the poor of the land to fail, saying, when will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn, and the Sabbath, that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small and the shekel great, and falsifying balances by deceit, that we may buy the poor for silver, and the needy for a pair of shoes, yea, and sell the refuse of the wheat. Yahweh hath sworn by the excellency of Jacob, surely I will never forget any of their work. So they were taking advantage of the poor. They were doing slack business, not fair business, and money became the primary thing. Again, look at Revelation chapter 6. Revelation chapter 6, because Revelation, in terms of the seven churches, the seven seals, and the seven trumpets, are representing time periods. And so when you look at Revelation chapter 6, and you look at the, you look at the third seal, notice what it says in Revelation chapter 6, beginning at verse 5. We'll come right back to Amos, but Revelation chapter 6, beginning at verse 5, notice what it says. I'm going to read verse 5 and 6. And when he had opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse. And he that sat on him had a pair of balances in his hand. Balances used to weigh things. And I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. And see thou hurt not the oil and wine. So here, compare that to what we just read in Amos chapter 8, in verse 5, saying, actually verse 5 and 6, saying, when will the new moon be gone, that we may sell corn, and the Sabbath, that we may set forth wheat, making the ephah small and the shekel great, and falsifying the balances by deceit, that we may buy the poor for silver and the needy for a pair of shoes, yea, and sell the refuse of the wheat. So in both instances, what you are seeing is apostasy driven by greed. The third church represented the rise of Constantine, who the Bible called in the third church, Pergamos, called him Balaam. What did Balaam do? Balaam caused the children of Israel to compromise, and he sold his faith for money. Okay, and so you have a period of time when the Hebrews was leaving the faith, some of them being forced out of the faith by the rise of Christianity. Okay, and so and some of them were leaving because they were being profited by religion, right? And so here is nothing new under the sun. So Amos existed probably 1,000 years before the 3rd century AD, right? And so here you go, or the 4th century AD. So here you go, and this is the same thing. Now, the Most High said here in Amos chapter 8, he was going to pass through us. Notice what it says there in verse 7 of Amos chapter 8. And Yahweh has sworn by the excellency of Jacob, surely I will never forget any of their works. So we were, among many ways, we were not only taken into slavery, we not only lost our land, he punished us because when we had all of that, we forgot the poor and we were greedy. That is why, as you awaken, you can understand what the greed is going all around you now from the Gentile powers of the children of Yafet. You can understand where it's headed because we are scattered into these lands and the Most High is awakening us. And we are now learning to give. Although I have to say, in the entertainment industry, they should be given some more, shouldn't they? But that's another story, because that's where all the money is going, right? All the people that are Hebrew blood making money are making it in the entertainment industry mostly, right? And so, but they're kind of doing the same thing that the children of Yafet doing, keeping their money. Anyway, they won't be able to keep it for long, that's for sure. Amos chapter 8, beginning at verse 8 and reading down to verse 14. Amos 8, beginning at verse 8 and going down to verse 14. Shall not the land tremble for this, and everyone mourn that dwelleth therein? And it shall rise up wholly as a flood, and it shall be cast out and drowned as by the flood of Egypt. And it shall come to pass in that day, saith the Most High Yahweh, that I will cause the sun to go down at noon, and I will darken the earth in a clear day. And I will turn your feasts into mourning, and all your songs into lamentation. And I will bring up sackcloth upon all your loins, and baldness upon every head. And I will make it as the morning of an only son, and the end thereof as a bitter day. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will send a famine in the land, not a famine of bread or a thirst for water, but of hearing the words of Yahweh. And they shall wander from sea to sea, and from the north even to the east. They shall run to and fro to seek the word of Yahweh, and shall not find it. In that day shall fair virgins and young men faint for thirst. They that swear by the sin of Samaria, and say, Thy God, O Dan, liveth, the manner of Beersheba liveth, even they shall fall and never rise up again. So you can see the punishment was not only were they punished physically, financially, but spiritually. They could not get the word of the Most High. And look at what happened to us. Look at what happened to us. Our names were taken away. We were run out of our land and went into the continent of what's now called Africa. We were captured there. Our names were taken away. Our religion was taken away. And we were sold a bitter goods, and we were living in bitter bondage. Badly punished. And to this day, the majority of the Hebrews struggle. To this day. He said, I will never forget their works. So let me ask you, with all of these facts I just laid before you, what is our way out? How do we escape? What is our way out of this situation that we find ourselves in? What is the way out? That's right. Repent, faith, Yah. That's it. Yah 3 said it. Yah, repent, faith. That's it. Faith in the Father and belief in his word and understanding where we came from. This is important, right? That we understand where we came from. That brings me to Deuteronomy chapter 26. Now, y'all know, like when we went through Deuteronomy 16, y'all remember we went to Deuteronomy 16 and we talked about the feast, right? And in the Feast of Tabernacles, if you recall, in the Feast of Tabernacles, they would come together with all their stuff, they wine, they oil, they corn, they animals, and they would come to Jerusalem in the Feast of Tabernacles. 8 days, 7 days of the feast, and 8 days of true fasting, beginning and the end. And they would party. Right? They would party. I mean, and they would share the food, the wine, the oil, the meat with who? The Levites, the poor, the fatherless, and the widow. Right? That was one of the many ways the Most High. We went through some last week where he said, when you go through your field and you take in your corn and your grapes, your olives, don't go through it twice. Go through it once, beat it, and then leave the rest. If you take sheaves and you don't forget one back there in the field, don't go back and get it. Leave it. and leave the edges. That's right. So he was providing. And then, of course, we know every 7 years, all debts forgiven. Every 50th year, all land is restored to the original owner. Every 7th year, all debts are forgiven and all slaves go free. The Jubilee, right? So the Most High had multiple ways of making sure that the Israelites in his kingdom were taken care of regardless of their situation, regardless of what you're born into, whether you're, maybe your father was a knucklehead and wasted all the substance you guys had. Well, it's okay. You and your moms could survive because you could go like Ruth did to Boaz's land and you could get grain and you could get corn and you could get oil. And then, of course, in the Feast of Tabernacles, the whole nation, millions of people, just think about millions of people would bring all of their goods to Jerusalem and they would share with you and you would have that too. Okay, so you was taken care of by the nation. The Most High made it that way. Okay, so now let's go to Deuteronomy 26. Watch this now. And then you got talking about remembering where you come from, man. This is going to be powerful for us. Deuteronomy chapter 26. Remember, this is us. This is our history book, right? So Deuteronomy chapter 26, I'm going to begin at verse 1. I'm going to begin at verse 1. And I'm going to start from verse 1 to verse 3 to start us off. Deuteronomy chapter 26 from verse 1 to verse 3. And it shall be when thou art come into the land which Yahweh thy Most High giveth thee for an inheritance, and possess it, and dwellest therein, that thou shalt take of the first of all the fruit of the earth, which thou shalt bring of thy land, that Yahweh thy Most High giveth thee. And thou shalt put it in a basket, and thou shalt go unto the place which Yahweh thy Most High shall choose to place his name there. And thou shalt go unto the priest that shall be in those days, and say unto him, I profess this day unto Yahweh thy Most High, that I am come into the country which Yahweh sware unto unto our fathers to give us. So when they got the land, they were to get the first fruits of the land. And in the beginning now, the place which Yahweh chose, I'm going to test you. Here's your testing. The first place that Yahweh chose in the nation when they first came in, what was the city? What was the tribe that he chose first? Now, we know eventually he chose Judah, but that wasn't the first tribe he chose. What was the first tribe he chose? When they first brought the place that he chose to place his name there, that's right. It was in Ephraim. That's right. In Shiloh. That's right. It was in Ephraim and Shiloh. And that's the tribe of Joshua, right? So he went to Ephraim. They would go there and bring their stuff to that mountain. Okay. And they would bring all their stuff there. And this man say individually, this is aside from the tithes, aside from the offering. This is you when you first get your land and you get your harvest, you bring this to the priest. Right? So the priest and the widow and the fatherless and the poor, you're bringing this, right? So you bring your first fruits, and you're saying, after you bring that, you're saying, okay, I am come unto the country which Yahweh sware to our fathers to give us. Okay, so now you're bringing it to the Levite. All right, now verse 4. Let's read verse 4. And let's see. And the priest shall take the basket out of thy hand and set it down before the altar of Yahweh thy Most High. So you have the brazen altar, which is the altar of sacrifice. There's two altars. There's the altar of sacrifice that was in the general court. That's where this man would come to the priest. Then there's the altar of incense. Now, only the priest was going to go in there. Not everybody could go in there. But the altar he's talking about here is the altar of sacrifice. So you bring, that's right, with the 400. So you bring your fruits, your baskets of your corn, your oil, your wine, your first fruits, the best you got. You bring it to the priest. He set it there by the altar. Okay. Now you're going to say some words to the priest. Watch. Verse 5. And thou shalt speak and say before Yahweh thy Most High, a Syrian, ready to perish, was my father. And he went down into Egypt and sojourned there with a few and became a nation, great, mighty, and populous. Now let's stop right here. Let's stop right here. You stumped me a little bit because it says Syrian. Where you get Syrian from? Let's stop right here. If you look up the word Syrian It's the same as the word Aram. Aram was one of the sons of Shem. He wasn't the children of Israel, but he was a Shemite. Okay, Aram. Let's take a look. Exodus chapter 10. Exodus chapter 10. Exodus chapter 10, and you see the children of Shem. Okay, so let's take a look in Exodus chapter 10, verse 22. Exodus 10, 22. And the children of Shem, Elam, Ashur, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram. See, Aram, interestingly enough, Aram became the father of a man who had his land named Uz. There was a very famous prophet that came out of the land of Uz. Do you know who he is? I'm giving you a Bible quiz right now. There's a very famous prophet that came out of the land of Uz. Do you know who he is? No. Moses was from Levi. Job, that's right. Don Hines, read his Bible. John Hines, read his Bible. That's right. It was Job. He came from the land of Uz. Well, that is Aram. That is Aram. So if you look up Aram, if you were to look it up in the Hebrew, you would see Syrian. Okay, that's where Syrians come from. So the Syrians are from Aram. Now, the Aramites are not Israelites. Now, let's make sure we're clear here. This is really good because we can very much definitely understand where Israelites come from. So Shem had a son named Aram. I don't know if it's Iran. I don't know. I actually don't know that. Well, honestly, I don't. But Shem had a son named Aram, right? His last son, his youngest. Aram created the nation of Syria. Okay, he created the nation of Syria. So he's a Shemite. We know Arphaxad, means light. That's right. We know Arphaxad. Now that's different from Uz. That's That's different. The Chaldees, right? But Arphaxad was a son of Shem. Arphaxad had descendants that ended up with Abraham. And of course, we know Abraham had a son, Isaac. Isaac had a son, Jacob. Jacob's name was changed to Israel. So now all the descendants of Jacob are the children of Israel. You understand that? So now I can say Aram was a Shemite, but he's not an Israelite. Not all Shemites are Israelites. See that? Because only the descendants of Jacob are Israelites. Only Jacob's descendants. So Aram is Syria. So now, Abraham dwelt in Syria. In fact, we know that when he was sent from where he lived to go find his wife, he went to his cousin Laban, and he called Laban the Syrian. Why? Because why was Laban called the Syrian? Even though he was from Arphaxad, because that's where they lived. You understand that? It wasn't that he, was bloodline to Aram, but he lived there. Does that make sense, y'all? So he lived there. That's why he said he was Syrian. So Abraham came from Mesopotamia, which is also Syria, and he came to the land of Canaan, his promised land, though he was a stranger in that land. Well, think about it like this, brother. When it's our turn, and our turn is coming, when it's our turn, we're going to say, an African I was. When we were kidnapped and brought to our enemy's land. Isn't that what we're going to say? And we're not bloodline African now, but that's where we were living. An African I was. When they kidnapped me and brought me into a foreign land, the Most High delivered us from that land. And now we're back in our father's land. See, we're going to have our own testimony. You see what happened? The brother is giving a testimony about what happened to his father. So he said, Abraham was a Syrian. That's where he came from. And he went down into Egypt, right? And he came out a nation. Wait a minute. We were Africans, and we went down into the nation, and they entreated us spitefully, correct? And we came out from the four corners of the earth, a nation. Check that out. Isn't that powerful, though? I mean, isn't that powerful, though? We came out a nation, because that's what the Most High is going to do. He said, and it shall come to pass When all these things come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations where Yahweh have driven thee. Yes, and he's going to gather thee back together. So just like that's why this testimony is so powerful in Deuteronomy 26, because as he went to the priest and told that's Deuteronomy 30. That's right, Yashara. That's right, Yashaya. That's Deuteronomy 30. And so he said, and we're not there yet. We can go there. But you see, it's in Deuteronomy chapter 23. He said, you shall no longer say Yahweh, which brought us out of the land of Egypt, but you're going to say Yahweh, which did bring us and led us from the four corners of the earth. Right? From all the lands where he had driven us, brought us back. That's right. Song of Moses in the land. Y'all getting it. That's Jeremiah chapter 23 and Deuteronomy chapter 30. We got two witnesses right there. And there's more. There's a lot of more. Okay. But this brother here that Moses is telling the children of Israel, this is what y'all going to do when you get your first crop and you get into this promised land and you get your land and you claim it and you get your first crop of good stuff. This is what you're going to do. And so let's go back. Deuteronomy chapter 26. Let's start the testimony again. From verse 5 down to verse 10. Okay? From verse 5 down to verse 10. And thou shalt speak and say before Yahweh thy most high, a Syrian, ready to perish, was my father. And he went down into Egypt and sojourned there with a few and became there a nation, great and mighty and populous. And the Egyptians evil entreated us. Does that sound familiar? And afflicted us and laid upon us hard bondage. And when we cried unto Yahweh, most high of our fathers, brethren, it ain't white Jesus. You know that, right? It ain't white Jesus. Right? It wasn't the Egyptian Ankh. It wasn't Ra. He said he cried to the Yahweh most high of our fathers. And that's what he's calling us to do. Yahweh heard our voice and looked on our affliction and our labor and our oppression. This is close to home, is it not? And Yahweh brought us forth out of Egypt with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with great terribleness and with signs and wonders, and had brought us into this place and had given us this land, even a land that floweth with milk and honey. And now, behold, I have brought the first fruits of the land, which thou, O Yahweh, hast given me. And thou shalt set it before Yahweh thy most high and worship before Yahweh thy most high. Let me take you real quick to Deuteronomy 23, just to show you what I was talking about. You notice what he said there, right? Took us out of the land of Egypt, right? Right, watch. Deuteronomy chapter 23. Deuteronomy chapter 23. Okay. Deuteronomy chapter 23. I'm going to read from verse 5. I'm going to read from verse 5 down to verse 8. Deuteronomy chapter 23, verse 5 through 8. This shows us Messiah and what his position is to the Father, which a lot of people get confused because is he God? No, he's not. The Father is, but he is the representative of the Father. Watch this. Behold, verse 5. Behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that I will raise unto David, that's Messiah, a righteous branch, capital B, and a king shall reign and prosper, and shall execute judgment and justice in the earth. In his days, Judah shall be saved, and Israel shall dwell safely. And this is his name whereby he shall be called. Now it says in big letters, the Lord our righteousness. This is Yahweh our righteousness. So Messiah's name is going to be Yahweh's righteousness. Let's keep going. Behold, therefore, behold, the days come, saith Yahweh, that, watch this now, watch this, that they shall no more say, watch this, Yahweh liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. Not going to say it anymore. This is Jeremiah 23. Not going to say it anymore. This is Jeremiah chapter 23. I'm reading from verse 5 to 8. Jeremiah 23, 5 to 8. Sorry, I went too fast. Jeremiah chapter 23 from verse 5 to 8. He said, they shall no more say, verse 7, Yahweh liveth, which brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. What they going to say then? Isn't that what the brother said? We were oppressed in Egypt, and he brought us out. Well, what's going to happen? Verse 8. But Yahweh liveth, which brought up and which led the seed. Why is it important that we know who we are? Why is it important that we know who we are? Look at this. Yahweh liveth, which brought up and which led the seed. And the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. The seed of the house of Israel from where? From Egypt? No. Out of the north country and from all the countries whither I had driven them, and they shall dwell in their own land. That's right. That's right. The seed. S-E-E-D. The seed, the bloodline. Right. Why is it important that we know who we are? This book is telling us our history and our future. It's telling us our history and our future. But Yahweh liveth, which brought up and led the seed of the house of Israel. Yeah, the seed, right. In Revelation chapter 12, verse 17, I quoted, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. And he brought up and led the seed of the house of Israel. Except this time it didn't come out of Egypt. Nope, the second time it came from the four corners of earth. Isaiah says the same thing. Okay. Tribes of Judah, it's right, the four corners of earth. Judah and Israel from the four corners of the earth, and they shall dwell in their own land. Prophets giving witness. Okay, back to Deuteronomy chapter. I didn't see the seed question, Yeshaya. I didn't see it. Let me see. I didn't see the seed question. Let me see. I didn't see it, bro. Can you repeat it for me, please? I didn't see it. Yes. The seed went to make war with the remnant of her seed. We are the seed. The remnant of her seed. Now, the seed is Messiah. The seed is Messiah. Remember, she was with child. The woman was with child, and she gave birth to the child. And the child was caught up to the third heaven. Remember that? And then the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, the remnant of the lion of the tribe of Judah. Yashia asked a good question. I want to repeat it, Yashia, for everybody to see so I can answer. Yashia said, was the seed of the woman, what is the seed of the woman in Genesis? It's Messiah. If you notice, when she had Cain, she said, what did she say? I have gotten a man from Yahweh. She was looking for their firstborn son, hoping that that would be the seed. And we know it wasn't now, but she said, I have gotten a man from Yahweh, because it was supposed to be her firstborn son. And it wasn't obviously Cain. It became Messiah. Okay, many centuries, many millennium later, became Messiah. The seed that crushed the serpent's head and bruised his heel is Messiah. Okay, so the remnant of the seed is us. We are the remnant of the seed. Okay, we are the remnant of the seed. It's the remnant of the lion of the tribe of Judah. You see why, Asatan works so hard to distort who the Messiah is, what the Messiah represents, and particularly what is the true people of the Messiah. You see why he works so hard to distort that? Because once you understand who you are, and this fits you personally, it changes you. Now, I'm in 1 Corinthians right now, And I started to understand, really started hitting me as I'm reading 1 Corinthians, how whenever Paul in the book says Jesus Christ, right? When the book says Jesus Christ, we know that there was no J's at the time Paul wrote this. Christ is an epithet of the Messiah. In other words, it was a name that Gentiles used for Messiah. Remember the woman at the well? We said when Messiah comes, who is called Christ, that's called Christ by the Gentiles. That Christos was not what the Hebrews call him. They call him Mashiach because it represents anointing. Mashiach. Okay. Now, when you read that, understanding his true name is Yahushua or Yeshaya or Yahushua, but it's not Jesus. When you understand that, and Paul is writing to the Corinthian converts, what is he saying? Every time they're reading that, they're reading about a Hebrew. They say, oh, Yeshaya, Mashiach. Oh, Yahushua, Mashiach. Oh, Yahushua, Mashiach. That's what they're reading about. And that, just reading that, they're understanding, oh, this is a Hebrew. We're reading about a Savior that's a Hebrew. If you understand it, think about it yourself. You're reading this letter, and the letter keeps saying Yeshua, Mashiach, or Yeshaya, Mashiach. It's telling you about, first of all, you understand you're reading about this Jewish guy. He's Jew, not Jewish anyway. He's a Jew. He's a Hebrew. He's an Israelite. You're reading about him, and you're getting this letter from an Israelite, tribe of Benjamin. And this letter is being read to you about this Hebrew Savior, so that you understand that the Savior comes from Israel. You're a Gentile. You're in Corinth, what's now Turkey. You're there and you're reading about this Hebrew Savior from Judea. And you got this Jew writing you about him. And so you understand, oh, salvation is of Israel. I was thinking about that and I was like, man, it must have been blowing their mind when he wrote that stuff to them. See, we see it now as Jesus Christ. And you think of a white man in a Christian church. But when you understand what they must have been reading when they read it, it's a different thing. It's a completely different thing. See, then now they're reading it and they're not saying, oh, we're going to create our own religion called Christianity, and we're going to change the image of this Hebrew man to another man, and we're going to make salvation of the Europeans. See how different that is? How much of a lie it is? And how detrimental it is? Versus the truth. And now you understand why a great emphasis is placed on that deception. A great emphasis is placed on that deception. Because the awakening scares the pants off of the powers of darkness. Scares them. See, because now you understand the God of your fathers. Notice, let's go back to Deuteronomy 26 now. Deuteronomy 26. Notice what he said in Deuteronomy 26, verse 7. Deuteronomy 26, verse 7. This is the key, brother. Deuteronomy 26, verse 7. And when we cried unto Yahweh most high of our fathers, Yahweh heard our voice and looked on our affliction and our labor and our oppression. Why? The name is powerful, but it's what the name represents. It's the God of our fathers. So we're calling on him by his name because we got his name by his spirit, and now we are connected to him, and he will answer us. This is the awakening. That's why it's so important. This is why it's so important. It ain't like we need to pick up guns and arms and go marching anywhere. We don't have to do that. All we have to do is know who our Father is and call upon him. Call upon him for righteousness. Call upon him to escape oppression. Call upon him for deliverance. And he will answer us. He will answer us. Okay? Because we've been separated from him for millenniums. Okay? And now we're awakening. And the awakening part is to call back on him so that he will answer us when we call on him. See? All right. Now, let's keep reading now. So, I'm start at verse 10. Now, we don't read 7, 8, and 9. Let's read verse 10. Let's start at verse 10. Yeah, let's start at verse 10. I'm going to read from verse 10. I'm going to read from verse 10 down to verse 13. Okay, Deuteronomy 26, 10 through 13. And now, behold, I have brought the first fruits of the land that thou, O Yahweh, hast given me. And thou shalt set it before Yahweh thy most high, and worship before Yahweh thy most high. And thou shalt rejoice in every good thing which Yahweh thy most high hath given unto thee, in thy house, and unto thy house, thou and the Levite and the stranger that is among you. See, even a stranger, you come into a new country, you don't know how to get a job, you don't got no business, you ain't got no land. Okay, we got you. Verse 12. When thou hast made an end of tithing all the tithes of thine increase in the 3rd year, which is the year of tithing, and has given it unto the Levite, the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, that they may eat within thy gates and be filled. Then thou shalt say before Yahweh thy most high, I have brought away the hallowed things out of mine house, and also have given them unto the Levite, and unto the stranger, and to the fatherless, and to the widow, according to all thy commandments which thou hast commanded me. I have not transgressed thy commandments, neither have I forgotten them. So we see, you see how these scoundrels right now, and I mean these scoundrels, these pimps, they can't wait to get in your pocket. They're even, they're not even waiting these days for you to get paid. They put the ATM machines now in the churches. There's some churches even telling people, go borrow money to give it to the church so we can do a building fund or whatever. These scoundrels can't even wait for you to get paid before they try to put their hands in your pockets. Look at that. Every 3 years. Now, let me ask you a question. Didn't they get crops every year? Didn't they get get wine and oil and grapes every year? Didn't they get that every year? But did the Most High say, okay, as soon as you get your crops, send 10% over here now? As soon as you get your crops, send the 10%. No, he didn't do that. Every 3 years, you do this. Yeah, every 3 years, you do this. Not every week. These scoundrels can't wait for you to get paid. Every 2 weeks, they're looking for your money. That's how bad it got, man. See how bad it got? Every 3 years is how the Most High does it. It's amazing, too. I mean, and there's some Christian churches. Well, some Christian churches believe in keeping the Shabbat like the SDA church. But there are some Christian churches that will tell you the law is done away with. And they still looking for tithe. Did you catch it? You ever caught that? They tell you there's no law. There ain't no law no more. And they looking for your tithes. They're looking for your tithe. And they reach into your pocket every 2 weeks. They're looking for that money. And if you are a senior and you're getting a month, every month they're looking for that money. But they're telling you there's no law at the same time. You know why it's called Babylon, right? You know why it's called Babylon, right? But they always reach in your pocket. Here, the Most High is telling us every 3 years. Every 3 years. That's how you do it. Okay? Every 3 years. And notice they had to confess that they gave the money. They were looking for the widow, looking for the fatherless, looking for the stranger, looking for the Levite. Let me find them. Let me give them what I got. So then they can say what this brother said. Then thou shalt say before Yahweh thy Most High, I have brought away the hallowed things out of mine house, and also have given them unto the Levite, unto the stranger, to the fatherless, and to the widow, according to all thy commandments, which thou hast commanded me. I have not transgressed thy commandments, neither have I forgotten them. Now, listen here. You could look at a woman and wish about having sex with her if you're a man, and you just sin, right? I mean, you ain't actually do it, but what's in your mind, right? Right? Or you could want something, you could see a diamond, or you could see a rich person, you could see some drip they wearing, and you say, I want that. You covered in that, right? And you just broke the commandment. Well, if you give to the poor, the fatherless, and the widow, you just kept the commandment. That's why he said, I have not forgotten your commandment. I brought this stuff to the poor, the fatherless, and the widow, just as you told me to do. Now you kept some word, haven't you? You could go back to your father and say, I've given as you commanded me. Praise the Most High. And he will bless you. Now I can say he will bless you for that. He will bless you for that. He says it. Okay. Verse 14. I have not eaten thereof in my mourning, neither have I taken away aught thereof for any unclean use, nor given aught thereof for the dead. But I have hearkened to the voice of Yahweh thy Most High, and have done according to all that thou hast commanded me. Notice they said for the dead. You know, there are religions that offer things for dead people. There's a religion that worships the statue of a man, and they'll put the best fruits around the statue, an offering for this statue, this dead man. Not to the poor, not the people around him that's poor. No, to the statue. Okay, to the statue. And do you know, even a Christian church, I don't care which one it is, it's an institution. It's an institution. It's not a nation. It's an institution. Okay, Israel's a nation. You giving money to an entity, an institution, a corporation. They're not, they don't necessarily give that money to poor, fatherless, and widow. Do they? Do they? And you're giving to the institution. The poor, the father, the widow ain't seeing all that money if they see any of it. When I was in SDA church, they would have it, you gave your tithe to the conference. Some of y'all know this. They give you tithe to the conference. And then when we had communion, they would take up an offering for the poor. And communion was generally once a quarter. And they take up an offering for the poor. Now, the rest of that money, see, that's completely opposite of what the word is teaching us right here. You could see the obvious difference between how Israel was to take care of their poor and how so-called religions take care of their poor today. Okay. All right. Verse 15. Notice the blessing they're asking for. Verse 15 down to verse 19. Deuteronomy chapter 26 from verse 15 down to verse 19. Look down from thy holy habitation from heaven and bless thy people Israel and the land which thou hast given us, as thou swearest unto our fathers, a land that floweth with milk and honey. This day, Yahweh, thy Most High, have commanded thee to do these statutes and judgments, that thou shalt therefore keep and do them with all thy heart, with all thy soul, that thou hast avouched the Yahweh this day to be thy Most High, and to walk in his ways, and to keep his statutes and his commandments and his judgments, to hearken unto his voice. And Yahweh have avouched thee this day to be his peculiar people, as he hath promised thee, that thou shouldest keep all his commandments, and to make thee high above all nations, which he hath made, in praise and in name and in honor, that thou mayest be a holy people unto Yahweh thy Most High, as he has spoken. Now let me ask you all a question. This is the Father's word, right? We believe that. This is the Father's word. Notice he said, thou mayest be an holy people unto Yahweh above all nations. Is this going to come to pass? Dumb question, but right? It's the word of the Most High. It's going to come to pass. He's going to have a holy people that is from the former slaves. We're going to give this testimony. Yes, we are. Yes, he is. Yes, he will. It's coming very soon, brother. Very soon. We got a rough road ahead of us. We do. Next 2 years. It's going to get crazy around here. It's going to get crazy around here. It's going to get crazy. Starting with this politics. You're going to get politics. It's happening already. You're going to see a revival of Christianity, white Jesus Christianity, particularly. You're going to see a revival of white Jesus Christianity, conciliatory movements from white Christianity toward Ashkenazi Jews and Muslims. You're going to have this movement. It's already started. And then, of course, you're going to have a white Jesus-loving Christian become your president. Listen, it's already happened. You white Jesus-loving Barack Obama, white Jesus-loving Joe Biden. You're going to still, it doesn't matter. I don't know. Donald Trump loved himself, but You're going to get the next one. I think it's going to be a Republican. It's going to be a white Jesus loving Republican, and he's going to do everything I just told you. Watch the governor of Florida. Watch the governor of Florida. But that's what I'm telling you. So, yeah, it's coming, and we got a rough road ahead of us. Some of us, as we mentioned, I'm telling you. And see, this is the thing, brethren. It's not a president we would choose. It's a president the devil would choose. Am I correct? But he has to wear a disguise. Remember, he looks like a lamb and speaks like a dragon. See? So it's got to be that. So you can't think it's somebody going to be righteous. Not really. It's going to be somebody that makes an appearance, an illusion, a deception. And brethren, it's going to start. You're going to get politics mixing with religion. It's already starting, brethren, and it's coming, and it's going to get hit. Now, we already talked about Wednesday night, right? The Most High is already leading some of us, a lot of us, away. The United States is going to be the epicenter. It's going to be the hot spot, okay? There's going to be other spots like Jerusalem and Rome and all that, but the hot spot of it all is going to be U.S. of A., baby. It's going to be right here, hot and heavy. This whole movement is going to start here. So the Most High is moving some of us. He's positioning us, and that's a really better term. He's positioning us in places he wants us to be. Keep praying to your Father. He's going to deliver us. He just promised it. He's going to deliver us. He's going to guide us. You may have to wait, maybe years. That happened with us. We were in New York City on 97th Street. West 97th Street. When he showed me a house, I didn't even know where it was. It was probably 5 years later. We ended up in the same house he showed us in Connecticut. Then when we was in Connecticut, he showed me this place. I didn't know where it was. Then in 2001, we ended up in New Hampshire. He knows where he's going to lead us and where he's going to guide us. It may take years before he takes us where he wants us to be. We end up here in Florida. He showed us that dream when was that dream? That was in 2019, 2018. So that was like 5 years ago. He showed us. We wasn't even sure where it was going to be. Here we are. See? So it's coming like that. Just pray to your Father. He's positioning us where he wants us to be according to the work. Each of y'all have a work that he's going to have you do. You're not hearing these messages for nothing. Let me tell you. First of all, you're not hearing it for nothing. You're not here by accident. You know that. You're not hearing it to be followers of me. That's for sure. You're here to go to your Father. And he's got a work for each of y'all to do. And he's going to position you where he wants you to be. I don't know where that is. He does. I can only tell you where he sent me. Okay? But he's going to position you where he wants you to be. Whether it's where you at now or someplace far from there, he will open the door and let you know. And don't worry, as all you're concerned with, really, the biggest concern as far as where you live is being where he wants you. Worst problem is to be where you want to be and he don't want you to be there. That's the worst problem. Okay? Be where he wants you. It's like being married to somebody that he didn't choose for you and you chose for yourself. Ooh, that's a bad situation. And you know it, right? Some of you experienced it. You with somebody and you said, man, the Most High was trying to tell me and I wouldn't listen to him. Bad situation. Well, it's just as bad to go to a place because you feel like you want to go instead of waiting for him to send you. Here am I. Remember Isaiah said, here I am, send me. Let him send you. And when he does, he's going to position you where you're supposed to be for your protection, for your benefit, and for his glory. He will do that. Okay? He will do that. Okay, so we're all going to have this testimony. This is beautiful, man. We're going to all have this testimony. So praise the Most High. May the Most High bless you and keep you. May he cause his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May he lift up his countenance upon you and give you his peace. Shalom.